I barely managed to get out alive. I know it sounds like something ripped from a movie, but I swear on the memory of my late Edward that every word I'm about to tell you is true. And if you're watching this, if you made it this far, looking for a story that makes you feel something real, I ask you to stick around until the end, because what I went through is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. But I need you to know that it can happen to anyone, even to you. And if this story grips you, subscribe to the channel to keep learning about real-life testimonies like this. That day was a Tuesday, March 14th to be exact. Valerie, my daughter-in-law, had invited me out for a late lunch at the Belvedere, an incredibly expensive restaurant in Beverly Hills that I would never have chosen. It was too fancy for my taste, too pretentious. But she insisted. She told me we needed to talk, that she wanted to smooth things over between us. I didn't trust her anymore, not after everything that had happened in the last few months. But a part of me, that foolish part that still hoped to get my son, Daniel, back, agreed to go. I was wearing my wine-coloured blazer, the one Edward gave me for our last anniversary. I fixed my hair and put on the pearl earrings that belonged to my mother. I wanted to look dignified. I wanted her to know that she hadn't broken me. I arrived first. I sat at a table by the window where I could see the garden fountain. The waiter offered me water, and I ordered chamomile tea. It always calmed my nerves. Valerie arrived 15 minutes late, as always. She wore a fitted black dress, very high heels, her hair pulled back in a perfect bun. She looked like a magazine model. She smiled when she saw me, but that smile didn't reach her eyes. "Harriet, it's so nice to see you," she said, giving me a kiss on the cheek that felt cold as ice. We ordered our meal. She ordered a salad. I ordered scrambled eggs and hash browns, because if I was going to be uncomfortable, I might as well eat something I liked. We talked about trivial things, the weather, the traffic on the freeway, nothing real. Then her phone rang. "Excuse me, Harriet. This is important. I'll be right back," she said, and walked toward the parking lot. I stayed there, looking at my plate, feeling that weight in my chest that hadn't left me for months. I took a sip of my water with lemon. It tasted strange, slightly bitter. I thought maybe it was just the lemon. It was then that I heard the whisper. "Mom." I turned my head. At the next table was a woman about 65 years old, short silver hair, thick glasses. She looked at me with an intensity that scared me. She slid her hand under the table, and suddenly I felt something in my palm. Bills. $200. "Call a taxi right now," she whispered, barely moving her lips like a ventriloquist. "Go to the restroom. There's a window that leads to the side alley. Get out through there. Do not come back to this table." My heart started pounding so hard I thought everyone in the restaurant could hear it. "What? Why?" "Your drink. I saw her put something in it while you were looking at the menu. Please believe me, I'm a nurse. I recognize these things, Togs. Get out. Now." The world stopped. I looked at my glass of water. That bitter taste. I looked toward the parking lot. Valerie was still talking on the phone with her back to me. I looked at the unknown woman. Her eyes told me, "We don't have time." I stood up. My legs were shaking. I walked toward the restroom trying to look normal, though I felt like I was going to faint. I went in. I locked the door. And there it was. A small window with decorative bars that, thank God, weren't secured. I climbed. At 68, I climbed like I hadn't since I was a little girl on my grandmother's farm in Texas. I scraped my arm. I ripped my stocking. I fell on the other side into an alleyway that smelled of garbage and dampness. I hailed the first taxi I saw. I gave the driver the address of my friend Eleanor. And as that taxi drove away from the Belvedere, As I saw Valerie running out of the restaurant looking for me in the rearview mirror, I knew with absolute clarity a truth that chilled me to the bone. My own daughter-in-law had tried to kill me. And the worst part was, I knew exactly why. But to understand how we reached that point, I need to take you back 6 months. To the day I made the biggest mistake of my life, opening the doors of my home, believing I was gaining a family, when in reality I was inviting the wolf to come in. It all started in September of last year. I had just passed 2 years of widowhood. 2 years since Edward left, leaving me alone in that old Victorian house in San Francisco that we bought together when we were 30. 3 bedrooms, a central courtyard with bougainvillea, original mosaic floors. Our entire life was within those walls. Edward also left me 2 commercial properties on Broadway Avenue. One was rented by a pharmacy, the other a clothing store. Between the rents and my pension, I lived comfortably. Not rich, but not struggling. I had enough for my expenses, for my medicine, for a little treat now and then. My son, Daniel, would come to visit every 2 weeks, always alone. Valerie hardly ever came with him. She'd say she had work, she had migraines, she had one thing or another, and that was perfectly fine with me, because from the day I met her 3 years ago, something about her made me uneasy. It wasn't the way she dressed, always impeccable, or the way she spoke, educated but cold. It was something in her eyes, as if she was constantly measuring, calculating, evaluating, as if behind that perfect smile there was a cash register counting numbers. But Daniel loved her, or so I thought. So I swallowed my doubts and tried to be polite. Everything changed when I turned 68. Valerie organized a dinner party at my house. She arrived early, with Daniel and 2 of her friends whom I didn't know. She brought super expensive food from a Japanese restaurant, scented candles, even ambient music on a portable speaker. "You deserve something special, Harriet," she told me, setting the dining room table as if it were a decorating magazine shoot. During dinner, she started asking questions. Questions that sounded innocent, but now, looking back, I see they were pure strategy. "And how do you manage with this big house, mother-in-law? Isn't it too much for you to clean it all? Do you still drive to do the shopping? Oh, the city traffic is dangerous at this age, isn't it? Do you remember to take your medication? Because I can set alarms on your phone so you don't forget." I answered patiently. "Yes, I cleaned. Yes, I drove. Yes. Yes, I took my blood pressure pills without a problem." But she kept insisting. "I see you're lonely, Harriet. And I worry. Daniel worries too. Right, honey?" Daniel nodded, chewing his sushi, without meeting my eyes. That night, after everyone left, I was picking up the dishes. I found a paper napkin where Valerie had scribbled something. Numbers. Amounts. $8 million house, $1.2 million properties, pension $12,000. I felt a chill. I put that napkin away in my bedside table drawer. I didn't say anything to Daniel. I thought maybe I was being paranoid, that perhaps it was just harmless curiosity. How foolish I was. 2 weeks later, Valerie started visiting me more often. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Always with some excuse. Bringing me donuts, accompanying me to the supermarket, helping me with paperwork. She checked my pantry as if I were incapable of buying groceries. She moved my things so they would be more easily accessible. She asked me about my documents, my deeds, my bank accounts. "It's just to keep everything in order, Harriet, in case something happens one day." One day, she showed up with Daniel and some suitcases. "Mum," my son said, with that embarrassed little boy voice he used when he was a kid and broke something. "Valerie and I thought it would be good to stay with you for a while, to take care of you so you wouldn't be alone." I didn't want them to. But how do you say no to your only son when he looks at you like that? When he makes you feel that rejecting him would be cruel? Of course, son, I said. This will always be your home. They settled into the room across the hall, the one that had been Daniel's when he was a teenager. And that's where my nightmare began, because Valerie didn't come to take care of me. She came to study me, to control me, to prepare me for what she had planned. Only I didn't know it yet. The first few days were tolerable. Valerie cooked, cleaned, smiled. Daniel left early for his job at the accounting firm and returned late. I tried to maintain my routine. My soap operas, my courtyard plants, my calls with my friend Ruth. But little by little, so slowly I almost didn't notice, things started to change. First, it was the TV remote. I always left it on the coffee table. One day it wasn't there. Valerie had put it away in a drawer, so it wouldn't get lost. Every time I wanted to watch something, I had to ask her for it. Soap operas again, Harriet. Don't you prefer to watch documentaries? They're better for keeping the mind active. Then it was my car keys. I had hung them on the hook by the entrance for 30 years. One morning they were gone. Oh, mother-in-law, Daniel needed them because his car is in the shop. He'll return them tomorrow. Tomorrow turned into a week, then a month. When I asked for them, Valerie looked at me with that expression of fake concern I was beginning to recognize. Don't you remember we agreed you shouldn't drive anymore? The other day you almost crashed in the supermarket parking lot. That was a lie. I had never crashed. But Daniel was there, nodding, as if it were true. Mum, it's for your safety. I swallowed. I didn't say anything, but I felt something break inside me. Next came the phones in my bedroom and living room. They weren't working well, Valerie said, and she replaced them with a new cordless one that she kept. If I wanted to make a call, I had to ask her for the device. And always, she stayed nearby while I talked. My friend Ruth stopped visiting me. When I asked Valerie if she had come, she said, "Yes, she came, but you were asleep. I told her it was better to call you." Ruth never called me. I couldn't call her either. I didn't have the phone handy. One afternoon, I looked for the photo album I kept on the bookshelf. Pictures of my wedding to Edward, Daniel's birthdays, our trips to Florida. It wasn't there. "Where is my album?" I asked at dinner. Valerie looked up from her plate, surprised. "Which album?" "The photo album. The green one, with embroidered flowers." "Oh, Harriet, that album has been in the same place for months, up in your closet. Don't you remember?" I went up to look for it. It wasn't there. I came back down. I insisted. She sighed, as if I were a stubborn child. She went up with me, opened the closet, and there was the album, in a place I would never keep it. "See? Here it is. Maybe you moved it and forgot." Daniel looked at me from the doorway with something that resembled pity. That night, alone in my bed, I hugged Edward's pillow and cried, because I was starting to doubt myself. I was starting to wonder if I was really losing my mind. Valerie started calling me Grandma, even though they didn't have children. She did it in a sweet, condescending little voice, as if I were 5 years old. "Grandma, take your pills now." "Grandma, you'd better stay sitting down. Don't fall." "Grandma, let me do it. You rest." I stopped being Harriet. I stopped being the owner of my own house. I became an inconvenience with a diminutive nickname. My routines disappeared. My space shrank. My decisions no longer mattered. And the worst part was, Daniel saw all this and said nothing. My son, the boy I raised, the man I taught to respect his elders, looked at me as if I were a problem that needed to be solved. One night I heard him talking to Valerie in the kitchen. I was in my room, but the walls of these old houses are thin. "How much longer are we going to keep this up?" Daniel asked. "As long as necessary," she replied. "She's not ready yet." "Ready for what?" There was a long silence. Then Valerie's voice, low but firm. "Ready for no one to question us when we say she can't live alone anymore." I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. Now I understood everything. They hadn't come to take care of me. They had come to make me disappear. The next morning, Valerie walked into my room without knocking. I was just waking up. She brought a cup of coffee with milk and a white pill I didn't recognize. "Good morning, Harriet. I brought your medication." "I don't take that pill," I said, my voice still hoarse with sleep. "Yes, you do. It's the new one Dr. Miller prescribed. For your memory." "What Dr. Miller?" "I've been going to Dr. Morales for 15 years. Valerie sighed, as if explaining things to a stubborn old woman were her daily penance. "Harriet, Dr. Miller came 2 weeks ago. Don't you remember? He's a neurologist. Daniel brought him because you'd been forgetting things." I felt a pit in my stomach. No doctor had come. Or if he had, no one told me. They were medicating me without my consent. "I'm not going to take it." Valerie's eyes hardened for just a second. Then the sweet mask returned. "As you wish, but when Daniel finds out you're not cooperating with your treatment, he's going to worry a lot." She left the cup and the pill on my bedside table. She left, closing the door softly. I flushed the pill down the toilet and watched it disappear with the water. That same week, Valerie organized what she called a family meeting to catch everyone up. She invited my niece Marcy, my cousin Justin and his wife Amelia, and Edward's sister Eleanor, with whom I hadn't spoken in years because of a misunderstanding over some inherited furniture. They all arrived on a Saturday afternoon. Valerie had prepared pulled pork sandwiches, apple pie, and coffee. My house smelled like a party, but I felt like something terrible was about to happen. We sat in the living room. Valerie served coffee with the smile of a perfect hostess. "I've gathered you because I'm worried about Harriet," she began, her voice soft but firm. "Daniel and I have been living with her for 3 months, and, well, we've noticed things." My heart started beating faster. "What things?" asked Marcy. Valerie pulled out a folder. A folder. As if this were a business presentation. "Look, here's the electricity bill from 2 months ago. Harriet paid the same bill twice. She didn't remember paying it the first time." "Lie, I never paid double." "Here's a note left by the neighbor, Mrs. Smith, complaining that Harriet knocked on her door at 3 o'clock in the morning, saying there were strangers in the yard. There was no one." "Lie, I never did that." "And 2 weeks ago, she accused the cleaning lady of stealing a silver brooch. The brooch was in her jewelry box, where it always is." That did happen, I thought, but only because someone moved it and then put it back. Now I know who. My family looked at me with eyes full of concern. Eleanor, especially, watched me with something that looked like pity. "Aunt," Marcy said, taking my hand, "is that true?" I opened my mouth to defend myself, but how do you contradict evidence you didn't know existed? No, things didn't happen that way." My voice came out weak, insecure, and that was worse than any silence. Daniel spoke for the first time. "Mum, no one is accusing you of anything, but Dr. Miller says these are normal symptoms of cognitive decline. We just want to help you." "Cognitive decline?" The words burned my throat. "I'm perfectly fine." Valerie placed her hand on mine, squeezing it tightly, feigning tenderness. "Of course you are, Harriet. That's why we're here. To take care of you. so you don't have to worry about anything. Justin cleared his throat uncomfortably. And what do you propose? That Harriet gives us power of attorney, Valerie said, pulling another paper from her damn folder. Temporary, just so Daniel can help her with payments, paperwork, the complicated things. That way she can rest easy. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at me, waiting for me to say yes. Eleanor was the only one who frowned. Power of attorney? That's very serious. It's for her own good, Valerie insisted. I wanted to scream. I wanted to kick them all out. But a part of me, that part they were already managing to break, wondered, what if they're right? What if I really am losing my mind? I need to think about it, I whispered. Valerie smiled, but that smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course, Grandma. Take your time. When everyone left, I locked myself in my room, and for the first time in my life, I was afraid of my own family. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks in which Valerie tightened the noose. I no longer left the house without her permission. I no longer answered the phone without her being present. Even my email was checked by her to help me with important responses. Daniel worked more hours than ever, or so he said. The truth is, I think he couldn't stand to look me in the eye. Then came October 18th, my 68th birthday. Valerie woke me up early with a radiant smile. Happy birthday, Harriet. Today is your special day. We're going to celebrate with the whole family. I didn't want to celebrate anything, but she didn't give me a choice. At 6 o'clock in the evening, they started arriving. Marcy, with her husband, Justin and Amelia, Eleanor. Even 2 distant cousins I hadn't seen since Edward's funeral came. Valerie had invited everyone without asking me. The table was set with my good china, the Delftware I inherited from my mother. There was barbecue, potato salad, cornbread, and apple crisp. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. Cheers to the birthday girl, Justin said, raising his wine glass. Everyone toasted. I forced a smile. We ate. We talked. Everything seemed normal until they brought the cake, a red velvet cake with candles that read 68. I blew out the candles. Everyone applauded. And then Valerie stood up. Family, I took advantage of us all being together because I need to talk about something important. The air changed. I felt that weight in my chest again. Valerie walked toward the living room and returned with a cardboard box. She placed it on the table next to my cake. These days, I've been organizing Harriet's things, and I found something worrying. She opened the box. She started pulling out papers, invoices, receipts, documents. Look, here are 3 water bills, all unpaid, with shut-off warnings. I had never seen those bills. Here is a bank statement showing 2 withdrawals of $15,000 each from ATMs. Harriet doesn't remember making them, because I didn't make them. And here's the most serious thing. She pulled out a crumpled envelope. Inside were bills, thousands of dollars in cash. I found this hidden inside Harriet's mattress. It's $78,000. When I asked her where it came from, she couldn't explain. All eyes fixed on me. That money, my voice trembled. That's my money, from my savings. But why are you hiding it under the mattress, Aunt? Asked Marcy, genuinely concerned. That's not safe. Anyone could steal it. Ah, is it because she no longer trusts the banks? Valerie said with a compassionate tone. She says they steal her money. That's why she takes it out and hides it. That's not true, I whispered. But my voice came out so weak that almost no one heard it. Valerie continued, relentless. 3 days ago, Harriet accused our neighbor, Mrs. Smith, of breaking into the house to steal her pearl earrings. The earrings were in her jewelry box. Why did someone move them? I said, my voice rising. I didn't put them there. Who would move them, Mum? Daniel said, with that tired voice that broke my heart. Only the three of us live here. Eleanor looked at me, frowning. Justin avoided my gaze. Amelia shook her head. And yesterday, Valerie continued, now with a broken voice, as if she were the victim. Yesterday she accused me of stealing a ring she sold 6 months ago to pay for some bill. But she insists I stole it. That was a lie. I never sold that ring. It was the engagement ring Edward gave me. I would never part with it. Lie, I shouted, standing up. Everything you're saying is a lie. The silence that followed was worse than any shout. Everyone looked at me with eyes full of pity, as if I were a delirious old woman, as if I were a burden, as if I were a problem. Valerie approached me, taking my hands. Her eyes glistened with fake tears. Harriet, no one is attacking you. We love you. That's why we're worried. She let go and addressed the family. Dr. Miller recommends we consider options, perhaps an assisted living facility where she can have 24-hour professional care. A nursing home, I said, feeling something inside me shatter. You want to put me in a nursing home? It's not a nursing home, Mum, Daniel said without looking at me. It's a residence, with nurses, with activities. You'd be better off there. I looked at my son, the man I carried in my womb, who I raised alone when Edward worked 12 hours a day, for whom I made lunch for 20 years, whom I helped pay for college, and he couldn't meet my gaze. Better, I repeated. Better than in my own house. No one answered. Eleanor was the only one who spoke. This seems too rushed. Harriet has always been a strong, clear-headed woman. With all due respect, Eleanor, Valerie interrupted her, you haven't spent time with her in years. We live with her. We see what happens every day. I collapsed into the chair. Tears flowed without permission. That was the moment I felt that all was lost. My own family had declared me incompetent. On my birthday, in my own house, with my own cake still uncut on the table. Everyone left early. No one wanted to stay for cake. That night, alone in my room, I hugged Edward's photograph and whispered to him, "Forgive me for not knowing how to protect what we built together." But something changed in me that night. Something hardened. Because if they were going to treat me like an enemy, I would learn to fight like one. 3 nights after that humiliation, Valerie brought me my nighttime medicine, as usual. A pink pill that was supposedly to help me sleep better. I no longer trusted her. So I did something I had learned from watching movies with Edward. I put it under my tongue, took the glass of water, pretended to swallow, and when she left the room, I spat it out into a tissue. My heart pounded like a drum. I turned off the light. I lay down. I closed my eyes. And I waited. At 11 o'clock at night, I heard her footsteps in the hallway. My bedroom door opened slowly. I felt her approach. I held my breath, pretending to be deeply asleep. "Harriet," she whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't move. She left. She closed the door. 20 minutes passed. Then I heard voices in the living room. Valerie and Daniel were talking. Softly, but in this old house, everything is audible if you pay attention. I got up without a sound. Barefoot, I walked to my bedroom door. I opened it just a crack, and what I heard chilled my blood. "Is she asleep yet?" It was Daniel's voice. "Yes, I gave her a double dose. She won't wake up until noon tomorrow." I felt a shiver. Double dose of what? How much longer are we going to keep this up, Valerie? I can't stand seeing her like this. "Are you going to get sentimental now?" Her voice was sharp. We're too deep in, Daniel. There's no turning back. She's my mother. She's an obstacle, and obstacles are removed. There was a heavy silence. Mr. Torres, the attorney, is coming tomorrow, Valerie continued. We'll show him the whole file, the duplicated receipts, the accusations against the neighbors, the hidden money. With that, and Dr. Miller's report, it will be enough to have her declared legally incompetent. Incompetent? Daniel's voice sounded unsure. Legally incapable. That means you, as her only son, get power of guardianship over her. Absolute power. You can sell the properties, move the money, decide where she lives. Everything. My stomach twisted. The commercial properties already have a buyer, Valerie continued. Mr. Harrison offered $1,800,000 for both, cash and the house. This old Victorian downtown is worth at least $8 million, maybe more if we sell it right. Almost $10 million. That was the price of my life to them. And her? Daniel asked. Where will she live? At the St. Lucie residence. I already spoke to the director. It's $18,000 a month, all inclusive. With her pension, it's perfectly covered. And we keep the rest. It sounds... I don't know. It sounds cruel. Cruel? Valerie gave a dry laugh. Cruel is being buried in debt because you can't control your poker addiction. You haven't paid Rocky in 6 months. Do you know what people like him do when you don't pay them? Do you want your mother to find out you lost $450,000 at the card tables? My breath hitched. Daniel, my son, gambling, losing fortunes. I already paid $180,000, he said, his voice defeated. Yes, with my money you're going to pay me back, plus interest. Valerie's voice was pure ice. So stop playing the saint. You need this as much as I do. Another long silence. What if she refuses to sign? She won't refuse, because tomorrow, after the attorney's visit, when we show her the whole medical file and explain that she can lose everything in a long, painful lawsuit, or she can cooperate and live peacefully at St. Lucie's, she will sign. And if she doesn't... The pause that followed gave me goosebumps. Then we'll have to speed up Plan B. What Plan B? Dr. Miller has a friend, a geriatrician who certifies cases of advanced dementia. With the history we've already built, plus a dramatic episode. Let's say Harriet tries to leave the house in her pajamas in the middle of the night, or she gets violent, or she has a crisis. That's enough for an involuntary commitment. My God, Valerie, don't come at me with morals now. You knew what we came here for. You agreed to move in. You signed Dr. Miller's first report without reading it. You're in this up to your neck, Daniel. Just like me. Footsteps approached the hallway. I ran back into my room, closed the door without a sound, and threw myself onto the bed. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst. Valerie came in again. I felt her next to my bed. She held her breath. She stood there for a whole minute. Then she left. I remained motionless until I heard their bedroom door close. Then I sat up in bed, trembling from head to foot. I had heard everything, every word, every detail of the plan to steal my life. My son was not a victim. He was an accomplice. The woman sleeping across the hall was not my daughter-in-law. She was a predator who had studied every move as if it were a game of chess. And I was the piece they were about to eliminate from the board. But now I knew. And for the first time in months, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt rage, pure, ancient rage, the kind that makes you get up when you thought you couldn't go on anymore. If they wanted to play dirty, I could too. But I needed help, and I knew exactly who I should turn to, even if it meant swallowing my pride. The next day, Valerie and Daniel left in the middle of the morning. They said they were going to the bank, that they would be back in 2 hours. It was my chance. As soon as I heard the car engine fade away, I ran to the kitchen cabinet. Behind the jars of coffee and sugar, I kept an old cell phone Edward used for emergencies, a basic device, one of those that are only good for calls. I had hidden it there months ago when Valerie started controlling my communications. I turned it on. It still had a charge. Thank God. I dialed Ruth's number, my lifelong friend. It rang and rang and rang. No answer. I tried again. Nothing. Maybe Valerie had already told her something. Maybe Ruth also believed I was losing my mind. My hands were shaking. Who else could I call? Then I remembered a name I hadn't said in years. Eleanor, Edward's sister. We had drifted apart after his death over something silly. She wanted the porcelain tea set that had belonged to Edward's mother. I wanted it too. We argued. We stopped speaking. How stupid. What an absurd waste of time. I looked up her number in the old notebook I kept in my underwear drawer. There it was, written in Edward's shaky handwriting. I dialed before fear could stop me. Hello? Her voice sounded the same, husky, firm. Eleanor, it's Harriet. There was a silence, then, Harriet, are you okay? Your voice sounds... I'm not okay. I need help. I need you to come. Please. What's wrong? Is it Daniel? It's complicated. I can't explain it over the phone. Can you come today? Now? Another pause. I'm on my way. I hung up. I hid the phone again. I sat in the living room to wait, my heart racing. Eleanor arrived 40 minutes later. She rang the doorbell. I opened it myself, something I hadn't done in weeks. She stood in the doorway, observing me. Eleanor was always tall, big-boned, with the face of a woman who wouldn't be intimidated. She had short grey hair, small silver earrings, a brown sweater, and jeans. Nothing fancy, but dignified. Come in, please. We went into the living room. We sat down. We looked at each other like two strangers who were once family. I don't have much time, I said. They'll be back soon. They? Daniel and Valerie. Eleanor, they're robbing me. They're trying to make me look crazy to take everything. I told her everything, every detail. The control, the lies, the medication, the family meeting, the conversation I overheard last night. Everything. Eleanor didn't interrupt me once. She just listened, her eyes narrowed, processing every word. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. Do you believe me? I asked, feeling a lump in my throat. I believe you, she said without hesitation. Something didn't sit right with me at your birthday party. The way Valerie presented everything was too perfect, too rehearsed. I felt a weight lift from my chest. Is there anything else? Eleanor continued. Something you need to know. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. After that meeting, something bothered me so much that I did some research. I hired a guy who works online, one of those who knows how to find information. I gave him Valerie's full name, Valerie Evans Reynolds. And? Your daughter-in-law has a history, not criminal, but a dark record. My breathing stopped. 7 years ago in Phoenix, Arizona, she lived with a widowed aunt, a 72-year-old woman named Eloise Evans, rich, with properties. The aunt began to show signs of decline. Valerie convinced her to give her power of attorney. She sold everything. She put her in a cheap nursing home. The woman died 6 months later. I felt the floor move beneath my feet. Valerie inherited everything as the sole caregiver, over $3 million. The family tried to sue, but they couldn't prove anything. Valerie had built a perfect medical file. My God. This isn't improvisation, Harriet. It's her method. She's done it before, and now she's doing the same thing to you. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were of rage. What can I do? If I go to the police, they'll think I'm crazy. Valerie built this whole false case. She even has a doctor accomplice. Eleanor took my hands. Her hands were rough, strong, real. We need evidence, real proof, and we need to move fast before they commit you or make you sign something. How? I know someone, a young, aggressive lawyer. His name is Sebastian Miller. He specializes in the protection of the elderly. He's won cases against sons, nephews, and grandchildren who abuse the elderly. He's good, and he's honest. Do you think he'll help me? I'm sure of it, but we need to move today, now. I looked at the clock. An hour and a half had already passed. I can't leave. If they see me leaving, they'll suspect. Then he'll come here. Tonight. I'll bring him. You let me in through the back door, the one by the patio, at 10 o'clock, when they're asleep. What if I get caught? Eleanor squeezed my hands. Harriet, if we don't do something now, in a week you'll be signing papers you don't understand, and in 2 weeks you'll be in a nursing home room watching your life be taken away. Is that what you want? No. Then? I took a deep breath. I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Determination. Tonight, at 10 o'clock. Eleanor smiled. It was a small but fierce smile. Edward would be proud of you. She got up to leave. Before opening the door, she turned around. Harriet, one more thing. Don't take any pills they give you. None. Spit it out, throw it away, whatever. But don't swallow it. I already learned that lesson. When Eleanor left, I remained seated in the living room, feeling something inside me awaken. They had made a mistake. They thought I was alone, but I wasn't anymore. That night passed with torturous slowness. I had dinner with Valerie and Daniel, feigning normalcy. Chicken in green salsa that I couldn't taste. Every bite got stuck in my throat. Is the food okay, Harriet? Valerie asked with that false sweetness. It's delicious, I lied. Daniel didn't even look at me. He ate in silence, his eyes fixed on his plate. At 9 o'clock, Valerie brought me my nighttime medicine, the usual pink pill. Open your mouth wide so I can see you take it, she said, smiling. My heart leaped. She had never said that before. Did she suspect something? I opened my mouth. I put the pill on my tongue. I took the water. I swallowed, making an exaggerated movement of my throat. Good girl, she said, as if I were an obedient pet. As soon as she left, I spat the pill into my hand. I wrapped it in a tissue and put it in my bedside table drawer. Evidence. I went to bed dressed, with my clothes under my pajamas. I turned off the light. I set the alarm on my old clock radio for 9 o'clock 45 minutes. Time crawled like a snail. When the alarm finally rang, I got up without a sound. Barefoot, I walked to the back door to the patio. I opened it slowly. The hinges barely creaked. The patio was dark, only dimly lit by the moon. The bougainvillea leaves moved in the October wind. I waited, hiding behind the plant pots. At 10 o'clock, 3 minutes, I heard the soft tapping on the metal door. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 knocks. The signal Eleanor had given me. I opened it. Eleanor came in first, followed by a young man, no more than 35 years old. Tall, thin, with thick-rimmed glasses, a short beard, and a backpack over his shoulder. He wore jeans and a denim shirt. no suit, nothing intimidating. Harriet, this is Sebastian Miller, Eleanor whispered. The young man extended his hand to me. His handshake was firm but warm. Mrs. Harriet, it's an honor. Eleanor told me your situation. I came to help you. We went into the kitchen. I closed the patio door. I put water on to heat for coffee. Tell me everything, Sebastian said, pulling a small recorder from his backpack. With details, dates, names, events, everything you remember. I told him the whole story again, this time without crying. With coolness, with precision. Sebastian took notes in a notebook while recording. Do you have any physical evidence? He asked when I finished. I pulled out the tissue with the pills. 4 of them now. The ones I had saved over the last few days. I need to know what they are giving me. Sebastian put them in a small zip-top plastic bag. I'll send them for analysis. If they contain unauthorized sedatives or dangerous doses, that's evidence of abuse. And Dr. Miller? I asked. The one who supposedly diagnosed me? I'll investigate his license. If he's issuing false diagnoses, we report him to the medical board. He could lose his certification. I felt a spark of hope. What do we need to do? Eleanor asked. Sebastian leaned against the table. First, we need to protect your properties. Tomorrow we'll go to a different notary, one I know, and make a formal declaration that you are fully of sound mind. That blocks any attempt to have you declared legally incompetent. Can I do that? Of course. You are the owner. No one can take that right away without a court order. And for that, they need real proof, not a manufactured file. Second, he continued, we need evidence of what they are doing. Recordings, documents, messages. How? They control my phone, my email, everything. Sebastian smiled and pulled a new cell phone from his backpack. This is for you. It already has my number saved. Hide it well. Use it only for emergencies or to record important conversations. Keep silent mode activated always. I took the phone as if it were a sacred relic. Third, we need to trace the money. If Valerie has already moved funds, sold something, or forged documents, that's fraud, a felony, jail time. How do we find that out? Give me access to your bank statements, deeds, important documents. Where do you keep them? In my closet. Up high in a red velvet box. I need to photograph them. Can I go upstairs? I looked at the clock. 10 o'clock, 47 minutes. Valerie and Daniel would be asleep, or so I hoped. Follow me. We went up the stairs slowly, avoiding the creaking steps. We entered my room. I locked the door. I opened the closet. I climbed onto a small stool. I brought down the box. Sebastian started photographing every document with his phone. House deeds, property titles for the commercial buildings, bank statements, rental contracts, everything. Mrs. Harriet, Sebastian suddenly said, looking at a bank statement. There's a withdrawal of $35,000 here from 2 weeks ago. Did you authorize this? No, I didn't take out that money. And this one? $28,000 10 days ago. Neither did I. Sebastian looked up, hard-eyed. That's bank fraud. They're using your account without authorization. What can I do? Tomorrow we go to the bank. Change all your passwords. Block any access Daniel or Valerie have. Put a security alert on it. Eleanor put her hand on my shoulder. You're not alone anymore, Harriet. Now you have an army. Sebastian finished photographing everything. We put the documents away again. One last thing, he said. I need you to act normal. Keep pretending. Don't raise suspicion. The more time we have to build the case, the stronger it will be. How much time? A week? 2 maximum. And what if they try to commit me before that? You call me any time. I have contacts at the district attorney's office. We can block any attempt at involuntary commitment if there's no real cause. We said goodbye on the patio. Eleanor hugged me tightly. We're going to win this, she whispered in my ear. When they left, I returned to my room. I hid the cell phone inside a tea bag inside the coffee canister. No one would look for it there. I lay down in bed, but I couldn't sleep. For the first time in months, I didn't feel fear. I felt something much more dangerous. I felt power, and Valerie had no idea what was coming for her. The next 5 days were the hardest of my life. I had to pretend, act like the confused old woman they thought I was, take my medicine and spit it out, nod when Valerie talked about assisted living options, smile when Daniel avoided my gaze. Sebastian worked in silence. The analysis of the pills arrived, controlled prescription sedatives mixed with anti-anxiety drugs. Doses that, combined, could cause severe confusion, short-term memory loss, even psychotic episodes in older adults. All calculated, all planned. Dr. Miller turned out to be a doctor with a history of complaints for irregular diagnoses. Sebastian had already filed a formal complaint with the Medical Arbitration Commission. At the bank, with Sebastian accompanying me, we changed all the passwords. We blocked any secondary access. The manager, a woman in her 40s named Patricia, reviewed the recent movements and turned pale. "Ma'am, there are withdrawals here that don't match your usage pattern. Did you authorize these transfers?" "No." "Then someone has access to your account. We're going to launch a fraud investigation." Valerie and Daniel had no idea that the walls were closing in on them. Until Tuesday, March 14th, arrived. That day, Valerie walked into my room with a smile that was too wide. "Harriet, I have a surprise. Today we're going out to lunch, just you and me, to a nice place, to celebrate that we're going to fix everything." My stomach tightened. Something wasn't right. "Where?" "To the Belvedere, in Beverly Hills. I already made a reservation." I remembered Sebastian's words, "Act normal. Don't raise suspicion." "That sounds nice," I said. I got dressed, the wine-colored blazer, the pearl earrings. I wanted to look strong. Before leaving, I took the hidden cell phone and put it in the inner pocket of my blazer. I set it to continuous recording mode. We arrived at the restaurant. Everything happened exactly as I told you at the beginning, but now I can tell you what I didn't know then. When Valerie went out to answer the call, it wasn't a coincidence. She had called herself from another phone to have an excuse to get away, because she needed time for me to drink enough poisoned water. The woman at the next table, Grace, had been watching since we arrived. She worked at the General Hospital. For 30 years, she had seen cases of elder abuse. She knew the signs. She saw how Valerie constantly checked my glass. She saw how I drank without suspicion. She saw how my movements were starting to slow down, my gaze becoming glassy. And she saw when Valerie, as she stood up to answer the call, brushed my glass with her sleeve and poured something else from a small vial she carried in her closed fist. Grace acted. She saved my life. Because what Sebastian later discovered, investigating Valerie's records, was chilling. 2 days earlier, Valerie had bought a bottle of Zolpidem on the black market. Sleeping pills, high concentration. The dose she had put in the water, added to the sedatives I had supposedly taken that morning, was enough to cause respiratory arrest in a woman my age, with my history of high blood pressure. It would have looked like a natural death. A heart attack during lunch. What a tragedy. What a shame. And Daniel would have inherited everything. But I escaped. When I arrived at Eleanor's house that day, trembling, with my dress torn and my arm scraped, the first thing I did was call Sebastian. "It's time," I told him. "We have everything we need." "Are you sure?" "They just tried to kill me." "Yes, I'm sure." That night, Sebastian activated everything. He filed criminal complaints with the district attorney's office, specialized in crimes against the elderly, fraud, forgery of documents, illegal supply of controlled substances, attempted homicide. He also alerted the authorities about Dr. Miller and organized the meeting that would change everything. I asked Sebastian for something specific. "I want to see the look on their faces when they realize they've lost." He smiled. "It can be arranged." 2 days later, Valerie received a call from Mr. Torres, supposedly the notary who would help her with the papers for my legal incompetence. "I need to see you, Daniel, and Mrs. Harriet, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, in my office, to sign the final documents." Valerie almost screamed with happiness when she hung up. "Daniel, it's done! We're signing everything tomorrow." That night, I heard them celebrating in their room. Cheap champagne, laughter, plans about what they would do with the money. Daniel, my son, the boy I held in my arms, laughing while planning to get rid of me. That was the last straw. I stood in front of the mirror in my room. I looked at myself. The wrinkles, the grey hair, the tired eyes. But I also saw something else. I saw the woman Edward loved, the woman who started a business, the woman who raised a son alone when her husband worked double shifts, the woman who survived the death of her parents, the loss of her husband, the betrayal of her family. "This ends tomorrow," I told my reflection, and I went to sleep peacefully for the first time in months, because I knew that the next day Valerie and Daniel would walk into that office expecting to sign my death warrant. But they would find something very different. They would find justice. The morning of March 16th dawned cold. I woke up early, took a shower, and put on my olive green dress, the one Edward said made me look elegant and serious. I put on light makeup. I combed my hair back, pinned up. I wanted to look lucid, strong, imposing. Valerie knocked on my door at 9 o'clock. "Harriet, it's almost time. Ready to go with the attorney?" "Ready," I replied with a firm voice. She looked at me strangely. She hadn't heard me speak like that in days. "Do you feel well?" "Perfectly well." In the car, Daniel drove in silence. Valerie was reviewing papers in the passenger seat. I was in the back, watching the city pass by the window. "Harriet," Valerie said, turning around, "today you just have to sign where the attorney tells you. These are papers to protect your assets, understand?" "I understand perfectly," I said. We arrived at a corporate building in downtown Los Angeles. We went up to the 11th floor, office 1106. Sebastian had given me the exact address, but Valerie thought it was the office of the corrupt attorney Torres she had contacted. It wasn't. We went in. The receptionist, a young girl with glasses, didn't smile. "Mrs. Harriet Chambers?" "That's me." "Please come in. They are waiting for you." She opened the door to a conference room. Valerie walked in first, smiling, confident. Daniel followed her, adjusting his shirt collar. I walked in last, and I saw their faces change. Sitting at the table were Sebastian Miller, with a briefcase full of documents; Eleanor, with her arms crossed and a face of stone; 2 agents from the district attorney's office, a man and a woman, both uniformed, and a public notary, Mr. Peterson, whom I had known for 20 years. Valerie stopped dead. Her smile froze on her face. "What? What is this?" she stammered. Daniel turned pale. "Mum, what's going on?" I sat down at the head of the table. I clasped my hands. I looked at both of them with a calm that surprised even me. This, son, is what happens when you underestimate your mother. Sebastian stood up. Mrs. Valerie Reynolds Evans, Mr. Daniel Chambers, you are here because you have been summoned in relation to multiple complaints filed by Mrs. Harriet Chambers. You have the right to remain silent or to leave. But if you do, warrants for your arrest will be issued immediately. Valerie tried to laugh. Arrest warrants? This is ridiculous. Harriet, what did these people tell you? Are they manipulating you? Eleanor spoke with a cutting voice. The only one who did any manipulating here was you. Sebastian opened his briefcase. He started pulling out documents and putting them on the table, one by one. Evidence number 1. Toxicological analysis of medications administered to Mrs. Harriet without her consent. High-potency sedatives, dangerous doses, signed by the Certified Laboratory of St. Jude's Hospital. Valerie swallowed. Evidence number 2. Bank statements showing unauthorized withdrawals totaling $247,000 in the last 4 months, traced to accounts in the names of Valerie Evans and Daniel Chambers. Daniel closed his eyes. Evidence number 3. Forged medical file signed by Dr. Stephen Miller, who is currently facing investigation for malpractice and forgery of documents before the National Medical Arbitration Commission. Valerie's mask began to crack. Evidence number 4. Testimonies from 5 neighbours and local merchants declaring that Mrs. Harriet always showed lucidity and coherence, contradicting the supposed cognitive decline. Sebastian paused. Then he pulled out a red folder. Evidence number 5. Valerie Evans's record in Phoenix. Case of Mrs. Eloise Evans, her aunt, who died under suspicious circumstances 6 months after giving her power of attorney. Identical modus operandi. The silence in the room was deafening. Valerie was breathing rapidly, her nostrils flared. Then Sebastian took out his phone, connected it to a small speaker. And finally this. He pressed play. Valerie's voice filled the room. She's an obstacle, and obstacles are removed. Daniel's voice. She's my mother. Valerie's voice again. The commercial properties already have a buyer. Mr. Harrison offered $1,800,000 for both. And the house? This old Victorian downtown is worth at least $8 million. Every word was a punch, every phrase a stab. The recording continued. The entire plan, Daniel's debts, the blackmail, the St. Lucie residence, Plan B. When it finished, Daniel had his head in his hands. Valerie looked at me with pure hatred. You? She hissed. You recorded us. Of course I did, I replied calmly. I learned from the best, from you. You taught me that people show their true colors when they think no one is watching. I stood up. I walked around the table. I stopped in front of Daniel. Look at me, I said. He raised his face. His eyes were red. Mum, Do you know what hurts the most? I interrupted him. It's not the money. It's not the properties. It's that you looked at me every day knowing what they were planning. You watched me take those pills. You watched me doubt myself. And you did nothing. A tear rolled down his cheek. You were afraid. Afraid of what? Of her? Of your debts? I am your mother, Daniel. I would have sold everything to help you if you had asked me. But you preferred to rob me. You preferred to destroy me. I turned to Valerie. And you? You came into my house. You slept under my roof. You ate at my table. And all the while you were calculating what my death was worth. Valerie crossed her arms. Are you finished with your little speech? The agent from the district attorney's office stood up. Valerie Evans Reynolds, You are under arrest for the crimes of fraud, illegal supply of controlled substances, elder abuse, and attempted homicide. You have the right to remain silent." "This is a farce," Valerie screamed. "You have no proof of anything." "We have everything," Sebastian said coldly, "including the bottle of Zolpidem you bought at the pharmacy on Main Street. The owner identified you from a photograph." Valerie tried to run for the door. The agents stopped her. They put handcuffs on her. She looked at me with a venom that chilled. "You're going to die alone, you stupid old woman, without family, without anyone." I smiled, a sad but firm smile. "I'd rather die alone than live surrounded by snakes." They led her away. Daniel was still sitting there, destroyed. "Mom?" he whispered. I looked at him, my only son. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I still recognized him. After Valerie was taken away, the room fell into a heavy silence. Daniel remained seated, his gaze lost on the table. The agents took his statement. He confessed everything: the gambling debts, the $450,000 he owed to a dangerous loan shark named Rocky, Valerie's blackmail, how she convinced him it was the only way out. "And the restaurant?" Sebastian asked. "Did you know what she planned to do that day?" Daniel looked up, his eyes full of panic. "No. I swear to God, no. When she told me she had invited my mum to lunch, I thought it was to convince her to sign the papers. Nothing more. When I found out what she had attempted, I couldn't believe it." "And you still didn't say anything?" Eleanor's voice was pure ice. "You didn't call the police? You didn't protect your mother?" Daniel covered his face with his hands. "I was afraid Rocky would kill me. I was afraid of going to jail. I was afraid of everything." I approached him. I knelt down to be at his level, even though my knees protested the effort. "Daniel, look at me." He slowly lowered his hands. "You were my pride," I told him, my voice broken but firm. "The boy who woke me up on Sundays to have breakfast together. The young man who cried watching dog movies. The man who brought flowers to his father at the cemetery every anniversary. Where is that Daniel?" "I don't know, Mum. I lost him." "Then find him, because the one sitting here is not my son." The agents explained his legal situation. He could face charges as an accomplice, but given that he cooperated and didn't directly participate in the poisoning, the prosecutor might consider a deal. "You will pay your debts," I said, standing up. "But with your own work, not with my stolen money. You will go to therapy. You will face your gambling addiction. And you will earn, step by step, the right to call yourself my son again." "Are you giving me another chance?" His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm giving you the opportunity to save yourself. What you do with it is up to you." We signed documents. Mr. Peterson certified my full mental capacity. Sebastian legally blocked any future attempt to declare me legally incompetent without my explicit consent. All my properties were protected in a trust administered by Eleanor and Sebastian. No one could touch them without my direct authorization. The $247,000 stolen was traced and frozen. The bank started its refund process, and I, for the first time in months, signed documents knowing exactly what they said. 3 days later, I visited Daniel in his new apartment, a modest, one-bedroom place in Queens, New York. He had to move. He couldn't live in my house anymore. I knocked on the door. He opened it. He looked haggard, with deep, dark circles under his eyes, unshaven. "Mum, I came to bring you something." I handed him an envelope. Inside were $50,000 in cash. "What is this?" "It's a loan so you can start paying Rocky and they don't kill you. But it's a loan, Daniel, with a contract, signed before a notary. You'll pay me back with monthly payments of $2,500 for 20 months. He took the envelope with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. Say you'll comply. Say you'll seek help. Say you'll pension to be better. I will. I promise you. I hugged him. He smelled of sadness and regret. I still love you, son. But love doesn't mean letting you destroy me. It means giving you the tools to rebuild yourself. The rest is your job. When I left that apartment, I cried in the car. I cried for the son he was, for the man who got lost, and for the fragile hope that he might still find himself. The trial against Valerie took 4 months. Sebastian built an impeccable case. The charges piled up. Aggravated fraud, elder abuse, forgery of documents, illegal supply of controlled substances, attempted homicide. Dr. Miller lost his professional license and faced his own criminal charges. The Phoenix case was reopened. Aunt Eloise's family presented new evidence. Valerie would have to answer for that too. At the final hearing, I was asked to give an impact statement. I stood before the judge with Eleanor by my side. Your Honor, I said with a clear voice, this woman didn't just try to steal my money, she tried to steal my dignity, my identity, my sanity. She tried to convince the world that I was no longer a complete person, that I was a disposable object. I looked at Valerie. She returned my gaze with pure contempt. But she failed, because I learned something in these months. It's never too late to defend yourself. You're never too old to fight. And dignity isn't lost with age. It's lost when you let others decide who you are. The judge delivered the sentence. 12 years in prison. Valerie screamed, cursed, and swore revenge. I left that room with my head held high. I also did something else, something neither Eleanor nor Sebastian expected. I took $300,000 from my savings and created the Edward Chambers Foundation for the Protection of the Elderly, dedicated to offering free legal advice, psychological support, and temporary shelter for the elderly victims of family abuse. Because if this happened to me, with an education, with resources, with my own house, I told Sebastian, imagine what happens to those who have nothing. The foundation opened its doors 6 months later. At the inauguration, Grace, the nurse who saved me in the restaurant, was our guest of honor. You saved my life, I told her, hugging her. And you are saving many more, she replied with tears in her eyes. Daniel didn't come to the inauguration, but he sent me a letter. Mum, I've been sober from gambling for 4 months. I go to therapy twice a week. I paid my first monthly installment of the loan. I still have a long way to go, but I want you to know that every day I try to be the son you deserved to have. I love you, and someday I hope you can forgive me. I put that letter in the box where I keep Edward's photographs, because forgiveness is a long road, and we are still just taking the first steps. 2 years have passed since that day in Mr. Peterson's office. 2 years since I got my life back. Today, as I write this, sitting on the porch of my old Victorian house, watching the afternoon sun paint the bougainvillea in the courtyard orange, I can say something I thought I would never feel again. I am at peace. The house is still mine. Every corner, every memory, every photograph on the walls. But I no longer live in it alone. I rented the upstairs room to a medical student named Sophia. She's 23 years old. She comes from Ohio and reminds me of myself when I was young, full of dreams and hunger for the future. She helps me with heavy shopping, and I cook her homemade meals. It's a fair exchange, without emotional debt, without manipulation. Eleanor comes to visit me twice a week. We drink hot chocolate in the patio, talk about everything and nothing, and remember Edward with laughter instead of tears. We truly reconciled. That porcelain tea set we fought over years ago is now at her house. I gave it to her. It's just porcelain, I told her the day I gave it to her. Family is more valuable. Ruth also returned to my life, It turns out Valerie had told her that I didn't want to see her anymore, that I had accused her of stealing my things. When Ruth found out the truth, she came crying to ask for my forgiveness. "You have nothing to forgive," I told her, hugging her. "We were both victims of the same liar. Now we play canasta every Thursday afternoon, just like before." The Edward Chambers Foundation has helped 37 elderly adults in these 2 years, 37 people who were being robbed, manipulated, and abused by their own families. Some recovered their properties, others found safe shelter. All recovered their dignity. Grace, the nurse who saved me, now works as the foundation's coordinator. Her voice is the one that answers the phone when someone calls for help. Her experience is what detects the signs of abuse. "You gave me a purpose," she told me recently. "For years I saw the abuse and couldn't do anything systematic. Now I can." Sebastian is still my lawyer. He has also become something like an adopted grandson. He comes for lunch every 2 weeks. He likes my chicken pot pie. I tell him about Daniel, my fears, my hopes. He listens without judgment. "You know what I admire most about you, Mrs. Harriet," he once said. "That you could have held on to the resentment, the hatred, but you chose to build something good out of all that pain." Daniel, my son. It's been 2 difficult years for both of us. He kept his promise. He paid the loan back completely month by month, without failing once. He quit gambling. He religiously attends his Gamblers Anonymous group. He got stable work at a small accounting firm, far from temptation. We see each other once a month, on neutral ground, a coffee shop in Brooklyn. We talk carefully, like 2 strangers learning to know each other again. At our last meeting 2 weeks ago, he brought me something. "Mum, I found this cleaning out my things." It was an old photograph. He was 7 years old. He was in my arms, smiling with the crooked teeth that hadn't been fixed yet. I was looking at him with a love so pure it hurt to see it now. "I want to be that boy you see in this picture again," he said, his voice broken. "I don't know if it's possible, but I want to try." I took his hand across the table. "You can't go back to being that boy, Daniel, but you can be a man that boy would be proud to know. He doesn't live with me yet. Maybe he never will again. But the door isn't locked. It's ajar, waiting for him to prove he can cross it without bringing hidden poison. And Valerie. She is serving her sentence at the Women's Correctional Facility. She tried to appeal twice. She lost both times. Her Phoenix case added 5 more years to her sentence. I haven't gone to visit her. I won't. Some people don't deserve your forgiveness. They deserve your indifference. The other day, a young journalist came to interview me for an article on elder abuse. She asked me how I felt about winning. "I didn't win," I told her. "I survived." "What's the difference?" "Winning implies everything goes back to how it was before. I didn't go back to who I was. I became someone new, someone stronger, but also sadder. Because now I know what the people you love are capable of when money is involved." "Do you regret fighting?" I looked her straight in the eyes. Never. Because if I hadn't fought, today I would be in a cheap nursing home, medicated into oblivion, watching everything Edward and I built disappear. And the worst part, believing I deserved it, that I was a burden, that I was worthless. What would you say to other older people going through something similar? I thought for a long moment before answering. That it's never too late to defend yourself. That age doesn't make you weak. It makes you wiser. That if someone makes you feel like you're in the way, a problem, a burden, that person is lying to control you. And that there is always, always someone willing to help you if you dare to ask for help. Now, as the sun sets and Sophia arrives from college with her backpack full of books, as I prepare the dinner we will share, as I listen to the distant sound of the church bells of San Francisco, I realize something. I didn't get my life back. I built a new one. And this one, this life I have now, with its scars and its lessons, with its pain transformed into purpose, with its chosen solitude instead of imposed, this life is completely mine. Edward always told me, "Harriet, you have the soul of an oak. You can bend, but you won't break." It took me 70 years to understand he was right. I bent. I almost broke. But here I still stand, with deeper roots than before. Epilogue and final reflection. This morning I woke up to the chirping of the birds nesting in the bougainvillea. I made myself my hot chocolate, with cinnamon and brown sugar, the way my grandmother taught me back in Texas when I was a child. I sat on the same porch where Edward and I used to watch the sunrises 30 years ago, and I thought about everything that happened. There are days when it still hurts, days when I see a mother with her son at the market and feel a pang in my chest. Days when I find an old photograph of Daniel and wonder at what exact moment something broke between us. But I no longer wonder if it was my fault, because it wasn't. For months, after it was all over, I tortured myself thinking, what did I do wrong? Did I spoil him? Was I too soft? Too hard? Did I give him too much? Did I give him too little? Eleanor was the one who pulled me out of that maze. "Harriet," she told me one afternoon, holding my hands, "you didn't create Valerie's greed. You didn't force Daniel to gamble. You didn't put a knife to their backs to betray you. They made their own decisions, terrible decisions. And the consequences are theirs, not yours." She was right. I have learned that a mother's love isn't infinite if it turns into complicity, that protecting your children doesn't mean saving them from the consequences of their actions, that sometimes the greatest show of love is saying, "Enough is enough, no more." Last week, Daniel celebrated 2 years clean from gambling. He called me to tell me. His voice sounded different, lighter, more real. "Mum, I want you to know something," he told me. "These 2 years have been the hardest of my life, but also the most honest. For the first time in years, I look in the mirror and don't feel disgust. I'm glad, son. Do you think someday we can be family again like before?" I took my time to answer, because the question was a trap, and I don't fall for traps anymore. We can't go back to how it was before, Daniel, because before included lies, secrets, and you allowing someone to destroy me. But we can build something new, something based on the truth, even if it hurts. Does that mean there's hope? It means there's a possibility. You build the hope, day by day, with your actions. We hung up, and I thought about that conversation for hours. Have I forgiven him? I still don't know if forgiveness is the right word. What I do know is that I no longer carry his betrayal like a stone in my chest. I let it go. I put it on the floor. And if he wants to pick it up and do something good with it, that's his job, not mine. Yesterday, a 74-year-old woman came to the foundation. Her name is Hope. What an appropriate name. Her daughter and son-in-law had kicked her out of her house, sold her furniture, and emptied her bank account. They left her living in a windowless attic room, charging her rent from her own pension. Grace welcomed her. Sebastian reviewed her case. I sat with her while she drank tea. "How did you do it, Mrs. Harriet?" she asked me with tear-filled eyes. "How did you find the strength to fight?" "I didn't find it," I told her. "I built it, stone by stone, day by day. And there were days when I thought I couldn't. But someone reminded me of something important. I wasn't the problem. They were. And what if I lose in the end? What if I don't get anything back? I took her wrinkled hands in mine. Hope, listen to me carefully. Even if you don't get a penny back, even if you don't return to your house, even if your family never asks for your forgiveness, you've already won something. You got your voice back, your dignity, the certainty that you are not a burden, that you deserve respect. No one can take that away from you. She cried. I did too, because in her eyes I saw my own from 2 years ago, and I realized something. My story is no longer just mine. It belongs to all the Hopes, the Graces, the Elinors, to all those who were once treated as disposable for having grey hair. Tonight, before going to sleep, I went to the room where I keep Edward's things. I took out his favourite sweater, the grey wool one that smelled like his cologne. It no longer smells like him. It smells like time. But I hugged it anyway. I did it, old man, I whispered to him. They almost broke me, but they didn't succeed. I protected what we built, and I built something new on top of it, something that would have made you proud. There was no answer, because the dead don't answer. But in the silence of that room, I felt something akin to peace. I tell you this story because I need you to know something important. If you are going through something similar, if someone is making you feel invisible, useless, crazy, you are not. You are being manipulated. And there is a way out. There is always a way out, no matter how old you are. No matter if your family tells you that you are overreacting. No matter if you are afraid. Ask for help. Speak up. Yell if necessary. Because you are not a burden. You are a complete story. A life lived. A dignity intact. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to take it away from you. I am 70 years old now. Wrinkles that tell stories, hands that built, lost, and rebuilt. And if I learned one thing, it's this. True wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you don't allow to be taken from you. And they didn't take the most important things from me. They didn't take my name, my story, my right to exist with dignity. That is still mine, and it will be until my last breath. If this story touched something in your heart, if it made you think, if you know someone who needs to hear it, share it, like it. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching us from? What part of this story impacted you the most? Because these stories are not just for entertainment. They are to remind us that it's never, ever too late to defend ourselves. Thank you for sticking around until the end. Thank you for listening to Harriet's story, which is actually the story of many, including, perhaps, yours.